Yeah, which leads us nicely on to the next question for you chaps, which is what are the common pitfalls that your customers are facing when it comes to gaining insights, visibility, and the utopia of observability, as we just discussed there, and how would you recommend countering them? Joe?
So I'd say, following on from Nick's point there, it is fair to say that infrastructure these days is complex. It is complicated. You're taking, you've got all sorts. You've got a range of connectivity options. You've got colos. You've got people coming in from home. You've got SD-WAN. You've got something as a service. Everything is distributed. So I guess when you take, if you're taking those services on, if you're taking those functions on, in the interest of supporting the business you work for, I suppose the first thing is, how would I go about troubleshooting this when it goes wrong? How would if I'm taking something on and there are SLAs associated with it, how do I guarantee I can measure those SLAs so I can go to that service provider in the fullness of time and say, look, you're not delivering on those. You might be measuring them, but I'm measuring them, and I can see you're not. So think about what might go wrong at an early outset, and then perhaps invest wisely. How would you, and design wisely, how would you troubleshoot things? Where would I want to be able to acquire data from to be able to enable me to troubleshoot when things and if things go wrong? I suppose that's probably the starting point. Don't design with let's just deliver a technology in mind. Let's try and deliver a solution that is a long-lived solution that can integrate with some of the legacy platforms I have as well. I think the outset is think about when things go wrong. Yeah, that's right. Because inevitably
they will go wrong.
That's because you've got an engineering background, Joe. That goes back to that being burnt reference, right?
Yeah, you're right. Being burnt.
Yeah. And I think what both of you have said is actually understanding what that baseline is. You know, like what we see all too often is, customers have got the best ambition to go ahead and deploy a particular solution, and they'll go ahead. In fact, one of our mutual customers at the moment, their approach has been, we're going to go to each of the application owners. We're going to tell them to re-architect their application with ACI, copy it over, and then we'll switch it off as when, we can prove that it works, And a lot of it comes down to people process, like understanding the baseline, having the people process and the organization fully behind you and that strategy that you're taking.
Yeah.
But what we see with a lot of the customers that we talk to is that, knowledge is very much still very siloed. So someone will go ahead and implement a vision and strategy, and either that partner will leave that organization or that individual will leave. So all that knowledge is completely gone as well. And then what naturally happens is there's a fear of change, a fear of updating and, like carrying out what should be fairly rudimental tasks, which might be just upgrades. I'm shrugging my shoulders like it's a simple thing to do, but it's not.
Just flick the switch.
Just
that's what the PM told me once. Just flick the switch.
Just switch. That's it. It's easy.
Just roll back.
Just roll back. Yeah. But baselining is so important, and actually knowing what you've got, and that's such a hard job to actually go and do. Now, if you can take that one step further and actually have some of those observability capabilities where you can get that baseline done and created using, tools, then fantastic. But that's what we're seeing.
Good. Do you want to add that, Nick?
It's common pitfalls, right?
Yeah.
That was a question. Yeah. I think a lot being covered. I think number one is requirements.
Yeah.
Most customers don't have requirements. They will come and be interested in a product. And go, I've seen this product. It does X, Y, Z. It looks brilliant.
Yeah.
And then you say, what problem do you want to fix? And most of them will say, I don't know. What does it do?
Yeah.
People don't always have a clear vision of what is it they need to do and how they want to do it. So a lack of requirements would probably be a big one for me, tied to use cases.
Yep.
And then probably something else, kind of, you got my mind ticking, Joe. It's in terms of customers don't always, you could go and buy a load of products and turn them on. But unless you understand the data that's being generated, you're going to end up with more of a problem. You have to know what things mean. So when you see patterns change in an environment, or you see anomalies, raised by an eye as an example, you need to know what does that mean. You can't just have there's people staring at the screen going, oh great, I've got all of this information, now what do I do? The longer term goal is to have all of that information and be able to action it, right? So you have all of these anomalies or whatever it is, or this data that's being generated telling you how things are performing. But the utopia would be you could take that and go and action something off the back of it.
Right.
But unless you know what this data means, you're never going to know what to do with it. So you can't just turn on applications and just expect everything to work, right? You still need to apply your own business logic to it in terms of, right, okay, this is what this means, so that is implying that something is going on and therefore I might need to do this. So there's a lot of, I don't know, analysis that needs to be done to really understand the kind of content that's being created.
It's in the context of your local, local context, really.
Yeah, you've got to have kind of specialists look at this stuff and think, okay, right, I've got all of this data, but there's no point even collecting the data unless you're going to do something with it, right?
Yeah.
It's just pointless.
Yeah. So is it probably fair to say that data in terms of collection is a bit like a tap, right? You can turn it on, you can turn it off, but the more you turn it on, the more data you're going to get, and the more stuff you've got to deal with. So you want to turn it on gradually and fix the problem or fix the data, triage the data to get to where you want before you move to the next stage. Is that a fair assumption?
You've got to build on it, right? You can't just go, okay, I'm going to, again, flick the switch. You've got to really, it's a journey. You've got to evolve with it. You've got to lay the foundations in place and work through different use cases. But just the last thing I'd probably say about kind of common pitfalls is people don't prioritise this stuff enough. Right? The budgets all get discovered after major outages. That's why, like, someone has a car crash, they're going to up their insurance premium, aren't they? Going to add on a few extra things, or break down services or whatever on top. People don't prioritise it enough, and I think the way the industry's going, there's more of a requirement for management or whoever you want to call it to make sure that their backside is covered.
Hence, that's what I was kind of alluding to with prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Think about what's going to happen when things go wrong, and how are we going to help solve that. But you're right, probably at a senior level. Yeah. Where's our backup plan here?
Yeah, you can't be in a position where someone's asked you a question and you've not got the answers. Yeah. Oh, give me a week. I'll go through look through the kind of like syslog index and see if I can correlate a few messages from 4 days ago. No, you need the answer now. Yeah. You just need it normalised. There you go. You got a question? Brilliant. I got the answer.
But also proactively test that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good shout.
Yeah,
good shout.
Yeah, I think there was an interesting thing about chaos engineering that I heard some event somewhere, and they spoke about, like you say, Joe, testing and stuff like that, and how you want to break stuff to see what happens, right? And you can only do that if you're confident in knowing that you're going to get the information out.
Yeah,
I'm not advocating breaking stuff, but
you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelette, right?
Going back to the pitfalls. Going back to the pitfalls, Jimbo. I suppose one for you guys, probably more than Jimbo. Do you feel that customers are overwhelmed with the term observability? Do you think, we're talking about pitfalls, do you think it's like too much to consume? The people say, there's all of this stuff, there's all of these words, I don't know where to start.
Yeah. So from our perspective, in the area that I work at, from an insight standpoint, what we've been able to provide our customers is a huge amount of data and insights that they've never had before. Yeah. So for them, this is great, because whenever there's been a problem now, or whenever there is a problem, they're able to prove that actually the problem isn't the network, it's actually a change that's occurred to an application that is, and that might be through the integration that we've done with App Dynamics. So from our perspective, what we're giving them is something that they've never had before. Now, as you can appreciate, over a period of time, as Cisco make further and further investments, there's going to be lots more data that's going to be coming to them. And I know that, at Jonathan's level, so this is way above my head, there is a plan to offer some kind of standardization, which is taking place. But, for us, Nexus Dashboard and Nexus Dashboard Insights is giving customers that insight and visibility that they've never had. So for us right now, it's great.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good area to be in.
Yeah.
Good.
Joe,
You got anything else to add on that?
do you think people get scared? Do you think people hear the term and just kind of feel overwhelmed and panic without being able to break it down into kind of components that they can build on?
I think probably you touched the customers a little bit more than I do. You see it slightly differently. My perspective, I think, is that the customers are busy just keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
And being able to introduce new. I mean, it's all what's the term? It's like changing a wheel while you're still driving, kind of thing. You kind of. I feel for people in the situation where they are just trying to keep the lights on at the same time they're trying to introduce new things. They've almost got to pause.
Yeah.
Almost pause operations, bring some new functionality and allow them to start going again at full speed.
Yeah.
But in terms of observability, I suppose we've been playing in that game for quite a while. We call it visibility, so we see it in a slightly different perspective than the customer does. But yeah, I can appreciate it's certainly a challenge for the customers.
Mm.
I think it comes down to your point though, understanding the requirements, because there are lots of tools that are out there, and they're tools that are probably having a very siloed approach within that organization. So in the ideal scenario, the customers would sit down together and actually understand what are the business requirements, to your point. Yeah, what are we trying to achieve? What does great look like? And actually, can we get to a point whereby we are, the network or the team that we're in, we're providing a service. We're a service provider back into the business, rather than us being seen as a bit of a hindrance. And I think we, as a vendor, we'll collectively as vendors, we'll go in and we'll say, look, we've got a great solution for you, but does it fit their requirements? It'd be great if, we were to work with an organisation to say, this is what we're trying to do, this is what we're trying to achieve, and ultimately we can go in there and provide a solution that might align or it might not.
Yeah.
I think that's something that NetScout are reasonably good at, because we're very, Cisco obviously broad, we're very focused in what we do, and we like to think we're pretty good at it. But there are other people, other partners within the ecosystem in an organisation's IT architecture that we can integrate with quite nicely. There might be some APIs from Cisco, certainly APIs from ServiceNow and the like, and F5. We do some quite nice integration to sit within the wider ecosystem.
Yep.
Splunk, if everyone's using Splunk for big data lake, that type of stuff. I guess I don't use the term, well, I'm going to use it now, best of breed, but that's kind of our focus, is purely on gaining intelligence from packets. But going back to the customer requirements, we might not meet some of them, but we can certainly deliver on the packet collection specific bits and make it easier for them to do it.
Yeah.
That's take a weight off their mind, if you like.
Yeah, indeed.